So this technique is called the three-part breath, or sometimes called the complete breath. And what we're going to do is simply try to take a very deep and sustained breath, building it up throughout the three phases of breathing. So that's diaphragmatic breath at the base where the tummy moves, rib cage breath or costal breathing where we expand the rib cage sideways, and sternal breath where we lift the breastbone upwards. So I'm sitting on a block with my knees folded and my shins supported on my feet. Backs of the hands are on the knee. So I'm going to close my eyes, growing tall. I'm going to gently lower my head, and then I'm going to focus on the breath to start with, coming through the tummy, diaphragm, rib cage, sternum. Breathe out. Diaphragm, rib cage, sternum. Breathe out. So I'll just perform 2 of these full, complete breaths. So a couple of points about that then. Firstly, I'm breathing in and out through my nose, because by doing that I'm warming and moistening the air, and so there's less likelihood that it will irritate me and make me cough, become sort of unpleasant. Secondly, as I do so, I'm allowing that breath to flow in rather than forcing it in or forcing it out. So in yoga terms we talk about the breath flowing rather than breathing deeply. So it's as though, you know, the atmospheric pressure is pushing that breath into me, and I'm just allowing that to occur. Secondly, you'll notice that when I got to the top of the breath, I held it for a while before releasing it. And that's because, if you remember, there are 3 phases of the breath. There's the breath in, which is inhalation. There's using the air when it's in the lungs, so keeping the air in the lung, which was our breath retention. And then breathing out, which is our exhalation. So we have inhalation, retention, and exhalation. And we want to get the benefit of all of those. So we tend to hold it for a while rather than breathing in and breathing out. So it's a little bit like, I suppose, you know, having a glass of wine and savouring it in your mouth before you spit it out or whatever, if you're wine tasting. So that's our complete breath. Now, why did I move the head forwards? Well, there's a couple of reasons. In classical yoga, that's known as a lock, and that lock, called the throat lock or the chin lock, bringing forwards, it's had to have different effects on the energies. And there are 3 locks. So there's a root lock, where essentially I'm drawing my pelvic floor muscles in tight. There's an abdominal lock where I'm drawing my tummy in, and then there's this throat lock at the top. And we have a blog on these locks, and they're called bandhas. For the style of practice that we're doing, they're not that important, but what I will say is that because there's a tendency when we sit and to allow our head to creep forwards in this position, that becomes a little bit restrictive in terms of the breath. So to draw the head back in and to angle it slightly forwards in what we call traditionally in gym world terms a sort of a skull rock movement, can be quite beneficial to the head and neck. So it just opens things up and makes it a little bit more pleasant. So let's just go through this again. So 3-part breath, and if you watch closely, see if you can see my movement at my diaphragm, my movement at my ribs, and then my movement at my breastbone. So sitting tall, hands on the back of the hand on the knee, gently look down towards the floor. Now, when you slow the breath and you allow it to flow, a complete breath can actually be quite long, much longer than we would assume. And that's because throughout the day we tend not to use the optimum amount of our lungs. There's a lot of lung capacity there that we don't use. So let me just perform one complete breath and see how long it takes. So that's a single breath, and we can increase that capacity with practicing our pranayama.